Hi, everyone. Dr. Adriana Popescu here with you today to talk about who or what is the source of your stress. I find that this is always a timely topic because no matter when you open up the conversation, somebody is feeling a little stressed, a little overwhelmed. I've experienced some of that myself today. So, good timing for me to give myself a refresher as to what we want to look at when we're feeling stressed. So, looking at the source, a lot of times when we're on autopilot and we are not really thinking mindfully, like when we're not being present, when we're not in touch with our feelings, our thoughts, we're not aware of what our mind is doing. I think that is where we need to start, is just with basic awareness. Because in order to change anything, including feeling stressed or overwhelmed, you're going to have to first be aware of what's happening. So I'm a big fan of timeouts and checking in. This is something I recommend a lot for my clients. It's also something that I'll do for myself. Like, just take a moment and pause. Like, put down the phone, close the computer for a moment, and just be present with yourself and possibly get grounded if you need to. So it might be something like putting your hand on your chest, putting a hand on your belly, and just taking a breath. And as I've spoken about before on other lives and in other videos, noticing first your breath. Because one of the things that happens when we get stressed out is we tend to start to shallow breathe or rapid breathing, like hyperventilating. And when we're doing that, we're really not getting enough oxygen to our brain, and that makes it so it's harder to think straight. So we want to slow our breathing down. So it might be hands on the body, like feel yourself sitting in the chair or wherever you're sitting, and take 3 nice deep breaths. Okay. You want to make your exhale equal to, if not longer than, your inhale. That's really important. That slowing down of the exhale, or holding your breath in between the inhale and exhale, like we do in a box breath, where you're holding your breath. You're breathing in, holding your breath, breathing out, holding your breath, usually to the count of 4. One of the things that that'll do is it'll start to calm your nervous system down. And when you do that, you're able to get more grounded in your body. You're able to kind of calm that fight, flight, freeze response. And then you can get this part of your brain back online, like the logical part of your brain that has the ability to ask questions. If you're in a full-blown panic attack and your nervous system is completely dysregulated, you're not going to be able to really think straight and use kind of your logical mind to get at what is causing this stress. And you won't even know the difference. I mean, if you're in a full-blown panic attack, you might not know the difference between that and a heart attack. It's going to feel like you're having a heart attack and you're dying and you need to go to the hospital. So being able to calm your nervous system first, get a little bit more in your body. EFT tapping is also really good for this. I have all kinds of videos on my YouTube channel. And I believe if you subscribe at firebirdhealing.com, you can also get some videos on really great techniques to calm your nervous system down. But once you're able to do that a little bit, and at least start looking mindfully at what is it that's creating this stress. And the low-hanging fruit for me always is, who does this belong to? Because I myself identify as a highly sensitive person, or an empath. So I'm constantly picking up on the energies of people around me. I happen to live in a big city, San Francisco. So there's a lot of concentration of people here. It tends to feel in general a little bit more amped up than when I go out to the country somewhere and it's mostly nature and not that many people. So picking up on other people's anxiety, picking up on other people's stress is something that I deal with from the moment I wake up in the morning, and I can sense everybody's like, I gotta get up. I have so much to do today. Blah. And I can feel the caffeination kicking in, which for most people actually tends to amplify their anxiety and stress. And that's something to be mindful of. If you're somebody who's a big caffeine drinker, you might feel like you need it to wake you up, but is it also actually creating more stress and anxiety for you? Because it tends to do that physiologically. So I tune to all of that, and I can easily get caught up in thinking that because I can sense those energies of stress and anxiety that other people have, to think that it's mine. So this really great tool from Access Consciousness called Who Does It Belong To is super straightforward. You literally are asking yourself, who does this belong to? And you'll get kind of this intuitive hit around if it's actually yours or someone else's. The tool that will often go with this is light and heavy. Whatever's true for you is going to feel kind of light and expansive. Whatever's not true for you is going to feel heavy and contracted. So if you ask, who does this belong to, this stress, this anxiety that I'm sensing? And it's important to say that I'm sensing, not that I'm feeling. Because the minute you say, I'm stressed or I'm feeling stressed, you've kind of already bought it as yours, that energy. So what we want to do is, what am I sensing? Okay, I'm sensing stress. I'm sensing anxiety. I'm aware of that. Who does it belong to? Is it even mine? Right? 10 minutes ago, before I walked into this place, maybe you're out in public somewhere, I felt fine. Now all of a sudden, I'm sensing this level of stress. Who does that belong to? And you don't need to know who it is, really. You can just, with your intention, send that energy back to whomever it came from. Okay, so that's the second piece. Who does it belong to? If it feels light to you, or you can ask, is this my anxiety, light or heavy? If it's not yours, or if you're not even sure, send it back. Then look at what you're left with. If there is still some level of stress there, then I would look at, okay, what is the point of view, the thought, the belief that I'm having right now, the way that I'm thinking right now that is creating this feeling? Because usually it starts with your thoughts. And most of us are not always conscious of our thoughts. We're kind of on autopilot, and we tend to run on these subconscious programs, oftentimes that are tied to our core false beliefs. Like if you're a perfectionist, you might have core false beliefs around not feeling like you're enough, and that you constantly have to be doing your best to, overcome this belief that you're actually not enough. So asking some questions about what is it that I'm thinking that's creating this stress. So for me, sometimes it comes around too much to do. There's too much to do and not enough time, right? These are the stories I tell myself, and that creates a lot of stress. But in actuality, if I really look at my to-do list, and I do make a to-do list because I find that keeping it in my head and expecting that I'm going to remember it all is actually more stressful to me. So I have very extensive to-do lists in my day planner. And I have to look at that list. And instead of looking at the whole thing and going overwhelmed with it, I have to look at, what is the priority for today? What is the thing that has a deadline, for example, that this needs to be done as soon as possible or by a specific date? And really challenge that too, because sometimes you think it needs to be done right away, but if you actually read through the email or ask the other people involved, when exactly is it due, you might come to find that it's actually later than you think. So once I start asking questions, then I start to challenge the way that I'm thinking. So is it actually true that all of these things on my to-do list need to be done right now in this moment? And then I reality check myself. Look, I have 15 minutes available right now. Realistically, what can I do in that time? Right? Which of these things requires my attention? Which of these things needs to be done in this moment? Who could I get to help me? What could I put on a back burner for the moment and come back to later? All these kinds of things are just little, organizational kinds of tools that help me. But fundamentally, I really have to look at, what is the meaning and significance I'm giving to this? What do I think is going to happen if I don't turn in or reply to this email right now in this moment? What is the worst thing I think that's going to happen? And I really challenge you to look at that, because most people, when you actually ask them, what are you so afraid of, right? You have all this anxiety. Oh my God, so overwhelming. There's fear there. I mean, anxiety is about fear. Stress is a fear response. The fight, flight, freeze response is a stress response. It's fear-based. So what are you so afraid of is going to happen? Maybe you're afraid you're going to get in trouble because you didn't get the thing done. Maybe you're afraid you'll be judged or you'll disappoint people, right? And again, this might tie back a little bit to your core false beliefs, because you might believe that I'm responsible for other people's well-being, which really isn't true. Unless you are caring for small children, you're not really responsible for other adults and their well-being. They are responsible for that. We actually can't control what other people think or feel. Sometimes reminding yourself of that can be a way of identifying what is the source of your stress. So really, to answer the question, who or what is the source of your stress, it's your own thoughts. So, and how you're responding to the external world around you. So you may have people putting pressure on you, a boss who's, wanting a project done, a partner or children who need you to be here, be there, do this, do that. Yes, all those things might be true, but how much power are you giving those external sources to allow you to lose your grounding, lose your center, and get overwhelmed and get stressed out? You can't control what they say or do. You can only control how you respond to it. So you might need to co-regulate with someone else who's stressed. Hey, I understand you're stressed out about this thing getting done and you need me to help you do it, recognizing that they're projecting their stress onto you. If you remain calm and you find your center, oftentimes that co-regulation, meaning you're regulating your nervous system, is going to help them calm their nervous system, right? So what is the meaning and significance I'm giving to this thing? Is it really as important as I think it is, or they seem to think it is? And what do they need to hear from me right now that will allow them, that will placate them, that will allow them to back off, so that I can handle it in my own time frame with whatever works for me? Okay, so some of it is a little bit about what we might call boundary setting, around other people's needs being impelled at you, and you needing to maybe find a way to manipulate that so that you don't take on their stress, their neediness, if that makes sense. One thing that also, another tool I find that is super helpful to me in calming my nervous system down, besides the breathing and the tapping, and I have other energy psychology tools I like to use, like the Be Set Free Fast Cue, or the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. These are really quick tools that shift energies very quickly. I will use all of those. I will do that in the context of asking questions so I can get more awareness around what it is that's really going on here, and if it's even my stuff. And then sometimes I find it super helpful to do an expand out exercise. This is, again, one of those freebies I offer on Firebird Healing for people who subscribe to the newsletter. And I've also posted about this. I believe we have one on SoundCloud as well. A guided, I do it as a guided meditation, but you can also do it quicker than that, is I expand my energy field out. I allow it to basically go beyond my body, to fill the room that I'm in, the building that I'm in, and I just get progressively further and further out, going down into the earth, up into the sky, until I'm as big as the earth. And then I expand out even more until I'm basically infinite. Like my energy reaches all the way out to the infinite reaches of the universe. And I find when I do that, it allows me to connect to my essential self, my spiritual self, my infinite being self, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And when I'm in that space and the earth seems really far away, I get this perspective shift. It's like, okay, whatever this thing is that I'm tripping out on in this moment is like a speck of sand in this vast universe that is so much bigger than that. And I start to remember that as an infinite being, this one moment in time, in this lifetime on earth, is just this tiny little thing, and maybe not as significant as I'm trying to make it. So I start to realize I have a choice. I have a choice in how I respond to this stress, whether it's coming from the outside and or from the inside. I get a choice, and I can make it a really big deal and allow it to run me over and cause me to freak out and get which for me probably will look at like snapping at someone or just getting super irritated. Or I can choose to put it in perspective and be like, what if it's not that big a deal? What if it doesn't need to be done in this moment? What if I'm making it far more significant, or someone else is making it far more significant than it needs to be? And combined, this assortment of different tools, sometimes just one of them will work. Sometimes I need to use more than one. But I find that overall, what happens is I'm able to calm down. I'm able to shift my perspective. And then I can come up with a logical, reasonable plan of action for handling whatever the situation is. But if I stay in that amped up fight flight kind of state, that's very fear driven, I'm probably not going to make a very good choice. This is what I also think causes, working a lot with folks with addictions. I think this is also what drives them to drink and use drugs, because they're like, I'm overwhelmed. I can't deal with this. I need a drink. I need to smoke. I need a whatever. So, finding other ways to manage your stress, finding other ways to manage your emotions, recognizing that how you're thinking is affecting how you feel, which then causes you to engage in these behaviors. All of those concepts have really become very embodied for me, so that now I'm able to, the instant something feels off or wonky, I usually will catch it. And I can keep the stress level. I talk about a SUD scale, a subjective units of distress scale, with my clients. It's a 0 to 10 scale of stress, where 0 is no stress, 10 is want to run out of the room screaming stress, full-blown panic attack kind of stress. I'm a big fan of taking your temperature, so to speak, throughout the day. Where am I at in this moment? If I, take that moment to check in, where is my stress level? 0 to 10. Ooh, it's feeling like a 5 right now, and it feels like it's creeping up. I know that point, that if I allow that stress to go any higher, I might end up in one of those full-blown fight, flight, freeze kind of attacks. I don't want that. It's a lot harder to get out of that than to try to manage my stress at a level 5. So that's when I would intervene and use a tool. Maybe I would go outside and move my body, or do some yoga poses, or, take some breaths, whatever it is I need to do, call a friend for support, vent it out, whatever it is, in addition to the other tools I've suggested, to get that stress level down. So we would call this kind of a form of stress inoculation, in a sense, right? Preventing further stress, higher levels of stress from happening by recognizing when the stress level is already on the rise. These are some of my favorite tools and tips for dealing with this question of who or what is the source of your stress. And for things that are ongoing, I've given you kind of a lot of in the moment type interventions. For ongoing things that are longer term, like you're chronically under stress from a job or a relationship or some other thing, it might require a change in that. It might require looking for a different job. It might require making changes in a relationship, or ending a relationship or a friendship. And those sometimes can be hard decisions to make. But if you're not considering your own needs, and what works for you and what doesn't work for you in these situations, then you're really disempowering yourself. And again, kind of giving your power away to the relationship, the job, the whatever, to dictate your mental health and well-being. And is that really the direction you want to go? Or would you rather empower yourself by making perhaps a difficult decision to choose something different? And again, we have wonderful tools for working with people's ambivalence about making a change, their fears and doubts about making changes. Some of the same tools I've already mentioned I can use for that as well. But really the bottom line, and what I wanted to convey today, is to stay in question, to really live in the question, and be open to the possibility that the way you are responding in a given moment to a situation that's causing you stress is actually something you could make a conscious choice to change and do differently, and actually eliminate the intensity of stress out of your life. That is possible. I am a much calmer person today, even though I have my moments. I'm a much calmer person today than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when I had no tools. and didn't know that I could change the way I'm thinking and feeling. So I hope, if nothing else, you walk away from this live with the idea that you can change the way you think, you can change the way you feel, and you can certainly change the way you respond to stressors around you and in you. So if you want to find out more, you can check me out at my website, adrianapopescu.org, or my trauma healing program, firebird-healing.com. Lots of tools, links to other resources, and the ability to schedule private and group sessions as well. We do different workshops and all kinds of cool stuff. I want to empower people with the tools I've learned that have been so helpful to me. So if you're interested, hit me up. You can DM me as well, email me. It's very easy to get a hold of me through different channels. And I look forward to seeing you next time.